All right, here we go. Hello and welcome to another episode of All Tech Canada. This is Modabas, and today I'm going to talk about 4 important things that you need to do before buying a used phone. Now, for a lot of people, buying a new phone for 700 or more dollars is not the choice to go for. So a lot will go to the local classifieds or eBay or so on and buy something used of good quality and go on with it. And today I'm going to discuss about the things that you need to do to double check the phone if you're buying it locally, for example, on Craigslist or Kijiji or so on, from a person that you probably don't know and you'll never meet ever again after finishing the deal with them. So as we go on, the first step is I'm gonna put these guys a bit to the side. The first step is to be smart about it. So first of all, safety is the most important thing. So when you want to buy a phone, make sure that you're meeting that person somewhere safe. Pick a safe location, for example, a coffee shop, or if the person told you to come to his apartment building, that would also work. Obviously, don't go to a random address, dark alley, the back alley where there aren't many people passing by. Safety is important, and you need to be smart about it so that you keep yourself safe. The second thing, always test the phone when you're getting a phone from a random person, and I'm going to talk about this step later on in the video. Of course, don't carry too much cash with you. If you can tell him, after checking the phone, I'm gonna pay you, or ask that person if you can make a wire payment using wire transfer, e-transfer, any of the methods to do online payment. That would be better than grabbing the cash, which might put you in danger. Somebody attacks you, take the cash and leave. And the another important thing about being smart is it's okay to say no if you don't like the phone. If the person, for example, about testing the phone was off, and he told you, oh, there's no time to charge it or so on, you can't test the phone. It's okay to tell that person, no, I'm not interested in the phone. So always be smart about it. So that should be the first step. Be very smart about it. And of course, if there's a phone, make sure it's not a copy or a replica. As I said, test the phone. So we go on with the second step. The second step, make sure it's not lost or stolen. Now, to verify if it's a lost or stolen phone, all phones have an IMEI number right here. So to get to the IMEI number, simply, I'm going to make an example with an Android. I'll put the Nexus on this side, make an example with the Android and another one with the iPhone, since these are nowadays the most popular phones being sold. So all phones give you an IMEI number if you dial *#06#. It's going to give you a 15-digit number, and you can check that number with your carrier, or if there's a database where you can check in a database. So, for example, here in Canada, we have www.devicecheck.ca, which is a website managed by the Canadian Telecommunication and Wireless Network Agency. So it's a semi-governmental website, and over there they put all the phones that are blacklisted. So you put this number, the 15 digits, in that website, and it tells you whether it's lost or stolen. Same thing, as I said, all phones, if you go to the dialer, *#06#, gives you the IMEI number, and as in Samsung, gives you also the serial number of the phone. You can also find that number in the settings. So if you go to the settings, same thing with the iPhones, you go about phone, and then you'll also get the IMEI number right here. Same thing with the iPhone. You go, you go general, about, and you're gonna see all the information about the phone, the IMEI, the serial number, and so on. And you always need to check whether with your carrier or with the database whether the phone is lost or stolen. You don't want to buy a phone and then after a couple of days or so it gets blacklisted and then you can't use it at all. It will be more like a Wi-Fi device just because it's reported blacklisted. And also make sure there are no accounts or passwords on the phone. So for example, I resetted these two phones, and I'm gonna sell these two phones. And when you go to, for example, in Android, I'll pop up the brightness so they can see. In Android, for example, when you go to accounts, can't find the accounts. There you go. Cloud and accounts. You can see accounts. There aren't any. Same thing with iPhone. If you go, actually with iPhone is a bit different because they have it up right here, right up in center. So you can see there are no iCloud, and since it's asking you to sign in. Also, you can go to, You can also go to iTunes, and also it's asking you right here to sign in. So again, no accounts. So always make sure that the phone is not lost or stolen, and so it's not reported and it's not placed in the blacklist of your country. You can also call the carrier and ask the compatibility of the phone, because the phone might not be compatible. So you can call your carrier, give him the 15-digit IMEI number, and ask them if your phone is compatible on their network. If it's for some reason it might not work or so on. So that's the second step. Make sure it's not lost or stolen. And of course, other things such as having the box with all the original accessories might be an indication that it's actually the person's phone and he's selling it for whichever personal reason he has. And now we go to the third step, which is testing the phone. And with this one, it's a big list. So first of all, you check the screen. Now, before I start, some phones such as Samsung and I know Asus, they have a code for their phone to check every aspect. So I'll put this one on the side. So for example, this Samsung, you dial *#0*#, and then you get this menu where you can test all the aspects of the phone. So speaker, sensors, touch, yeah, that's the sensors. The colors of the screen, the receiver, you can hear it making a beep sound, the sub key, all the aspects you can test it. Some phones offer that, such as Samsung's. If you press a certain code, you can Google the code online and you'll probably find some results about the code. I know Samsung and Asus, they offer that. But I usually don't do that. What I do, first of all, I take a look at the screen, make sure there are no defects, no burn-ins, it's uniform. You don't get, what I mean uniform, you don't get some areas where it's cool in colors and other places where it's warm. Make sure there are no dead pixels, especially with OLEDs. Sometimes you get like a black spot or a burn-in. This phone actually has a burn-in. It's a light burn-in. You can see it on white backgrounds. Not sure if the camera picks it up, but there is a small white bar, yellow bar right here coming on. So this phone has a burn-in. You can test a burn-in by putting a white background, and usually you can spot it really fast. After making sure the screen is okay, check the buttons, make sure they're clicky, make sure they're responsive, clicky, and check Wi-Fi, check Bluetooth, check charger. I grouped these in one because this is really fast and you can do it really readily. The next step is to check the camera. Now, most of the people nowadays have the camera as their main, the phone camera as their main camera. So make sure if you're only using one camera most of the time, almost always, a lot of people don't have other cameras except their phone cameras, make sure it's working properly. So if you have a phone with multiple lenses, such as most phones nowadays, most high-end phones nowadays, they have multiple lenses. Check all the lenses. Make sure the phone is taking pictures, the pictures are saved, and take a look at the pictures that are taken. So some phones, they take the pictures, but for some reason they don't save them. Make sure it does everything. Yeah, so I'm gonna take a picture. Make sure you can view it afterwards. So this one, the camera works. Make sure the autofocus is working. I've seen a lot of phones in the past where the autofocus does not work. So for some reason you can hear the motor, but it does not focus. It's broken one way or another. So grab a close object, then go a bit further away, then go back to the close object to test the autofocus. This one is good. And as I said, if as in the case of this one, there's front camera as well. Check the front camera as well. Check all the cameras, because sometimes if the camera connection or the camera itself is not working, it won't turn on that specific camera and you'll get an error. So after the camera, you need to check the speakers, the microphones, and the earpiece speaker. Now with Samsung, as I showed you, there's a way to test it, but for me, the easiest way to test that is just put your SIM card in and make a phone call. Now, as I mentioned here, doing that makes you test the microphone and speakers. You can make a phone call, you can put it, talk to the person real fast, put the person on speaker, make sure the speakers are working. And also by putting your SIM card in and making a phone call, you make sure that the phone can work on your network. And on top of that, you can tell if it reads the SIM card, and you can get a reception. Some phones, maybe because of mistreating the phone, the SIM card tray stops working. So broken pins in the SIM card tray might actually damage the SIM card tray. And I've seen that a lot, many times, where a phone does not read the SIM card. So put your SIM card in, because that's the only way to test that, if the SIM card reader is working or not. Put the SIM card in, make a phone call, and it will give you an answer. Now, all right, sorry about that, the camera fell. So make a phone call, test the whether the microphone, making a phone call makes you test the microphone and speaker, as well as making sure that the connectivity of the phone is fully functional, as well as makes sure that your SIM card is working, the SIM card reader is working. And one last hardware that you need to check before buying a used phone is the battery health. Now with Android, there aren't any specific setting option where you can check the battery percentage. However, with iPhone, after the big drama about the battery, iPhone having not very good batteries and so on, and the battery depleting and Apple slowing the phone as a result, Apple made in the phone itself, in the settings, so go settings, go battery settings, and you can see an option of battery health. So this one has battery health of 90%, which is good. Now with Android, I don't have a particular, there are some apps, I don't have a particular ways to test the phone's battery in the phone itself. You can download apps and so on, but what I usually do, I test it, and when I'm testing the phone within that 5 minutes period, if the battery drops dramatically, that's a red flag for me, so probably won't buy that phone. If like this one, throughout the video now, only dropped by 1 or 2%, that's alright. I have the brightness all, well, I don't have it all maxed up, but yeah, so if the battery drops significantly, you should know there's something wrong, and be careful. With iPhones, you can go to the settings after with with the recent iOS update, you go battery health, and it's right here. Maximum capacity 90%, which is good. And peak performance, your battery is currently supporting normal peak performance, which is also good. And with that, we've done all the points that you need to test when you want to buy a new phone. To test the hardware, the points to test the hardware when you want to buy a new phone. And then finally, before you just give him your hard-earned cash, you need to do the last and fourth step, which I believe is do it like this so that you can take a look at it better. Which I think is the most important part, in my opinion, is factory reset the phone. So first of all, if there's any accounts of that person, it deletes them. If there are pictures, data of that person, they delete them as well. And also you can test the battery percentage. And believe me, you don't want to buy a phone without just factory reset in front of the person, because if there's a password on that, before you factory reset, the phone is going to ask you for that password. And if the person doesn't know that password, then that's a red flag. If he knows the password, then you got yourself from future trouble of buying the phone, and then after a while, some phones, even if it doesn't have screen unlock, it still has a password. For example, with Android, it always asks you a password if you restart the phone. Well, I set a password so that it asks you about the password if I restarted the phone. So some people might put as the screen lock as normal swipe, but has still a password or a fingerprint scanner, a fingerprint ID on the phone itself that activates once you restart the phone. So make sure you don't want to get into that trouble. So make sure to factory reset the phone before buying it. And also gives you an idea about the battery health of the phone. So if the phone, for example, you reset the phone and it's dropped by 20% or 30%, then that's a red flag. Again, if there's an account, for example, and the person doesn't know the password, that's a red flag. You can walk away from that deal. And yeah, and also, believe me, you don't want to see other people's personal information, because I've been there. I've seen things I wish I haven't seen. And that's why I know this is the last step before buying a phone. Factory reset. Make sure he's right there in front of you. Factory reset. Make sure everything is erased, all the data, all the passwords, all the accounts, before you buy the phone. Because once you buy the phone, you will probably never see that person again. So if there's any issue with the phone, with the account or a password, well, it's tough luck for you. And with this, I conclude my video. 4 steps for buying a used phone from a person. And yeah, this has been Mod Abbas from Alta Canada. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments. If you have any comments and questions, you can either leave them or tweet me at Alta Canada and I'll answer back to you. I hope this video has been informative, and I hope for whomever gonna buy a new phone, a used phone from a person, would benefit from that information. And that would be it for me, and I'm signing out. Have a good one.